In Sinatra Project Building Part 2, we're going to actually create a real Sinatra application that is going to provide some value to the user, some actual tangible value. And this is going to replicate a secret Santa generator, which I think you can find these on the internet. Let's see, like at drawnames.com. This one looks pretty cool. It won't be as extensive as this, but it's going to replicate the kind of functionality you would expect from a secret Santa application or gift giver application, whatever it is you want to call it. And we're going to do this entirely in Sinatra, and we're going to use the de facto style of creating Sinatra applications, which is called MVC, or Model View Controller Architecture. But before we get started, I do want to send out the template that we're going to be using, which is the Upperline Code, Upperline Basic Sinatra template. I will send out the link for it on Slack really quickly into the Bootcamp channel. And you can just go ahead and grab that. And when you navigate to the GitHub page, you can go ahead and clone that directly into your Cloud9 workspace. And we're going to start fresh, entirely fresh, and work our way up from here. So as always, if I'm going to clone a template into Cloud9, I start by typing in git clone space, and then I paste in the link, and then I'm going to make a space after that. I'm going to call this the gift-giver-app. Ta-da! And once I have done that, I should have a gift giver app directory inside my main Sinatra project workspace, and we're ready to get going. As always, whenever you create a Sinatra application, we're going to need the proper gems. So I'm going to CD into my gift giver app, and I'm just going to clear to leave some space, and I'm going to install the appropriate gems so that our app works the way we expect it to. To make sure that we can bundle all of our gems together, I'm just going to type gem install bundler. Do you have a question, Mari?
I do. So when installing these gems, does it have to
Yes.
be inside a particular directory? Like, does it install it specifically into a directory or to your workspace?
You can install gems globally, but in this case, we're going to be using our gem file to install a lot of these gems. Everything in the gem file is going to be installed locally into each specific directory, but there are gems that you can install globally as well, which for most of these you can do. And once you have gem install bundler, which is going to bundle all of your gems into your Sinatra project as we run our project, we're also going to install all of the gems in our gem file by typing in bundle install. And mine went pretty quickly. I have 10 gems installed, 3 gem file dependencies. I can see that I now have rack, tilt, code ray, method source, slop, bundler, rack protection, shotgun, prize, Sinatra, etc. But you'll notice that we didn't have to fetch them the same ways we did last time. There was a bunch more text when we bundle installed in the last iteration of this. And that's because these gems are already installed inside the workspace. And so they're cached to save them for later so we can just access them really quickly. So every time you bundle install these same gems again, it'll happen much more quickly and it makes your life easier, which is kind of nice. And so anytime we want to run our application, you can copy the line from the README, which I have made exceptionally big. Just let's wrap some lines. Let's make that much smaller. There we go. Shotgun -P $port -O $IP. If you copy and paste that just to make sure our app is working, we should have a link. Ta-da! Here's my view. So a similar system to last time, except this time we're going to use what's known as the Model View Controller Architecture to construct our app. And if you open up the app directory, you'll see 3 folders: a controllers folder, a models folder, and a views folder. Each of these folders or directories are going to hold the different piece of our application, and each one serves its own independent purpose. So now, you don't have to use the Model View Controller Architecture, but it is the de facto way of standardizing different parts of your code so that it's easy to reason about what what your files are doing. Oftentimes, as your app grows in complexity, it becomes really difficult to figure out what's doing what. And so sectioning them off into different parts of your application, it's called separation of concerns. Each part of your app is only concerned with a specific feature of your application. And just to draw a nice little metaphor here before we go into it, I want to talk about what MVC actually is. So MVC, once again, stands for Model View Controller Architecture. I think it should be honestly be called MCV since it's Model Controller View, but oops, let's get it in there. Okay, that's not one. We're just going to call it MVC, which again stands for Model View Controller. Now, these are not in the proper order. Technically, the way our apps are going to work is that we have this central part of our app called the controller right here, which does all the directing, this controller. And then we have the views in our app that our user can see. I'm gonna draw a little eye right there so you remember that it's a view. I'm gonna put some pretty eyelashes. That's a freaky looking eye, but I'm not an artist, so I apologize to Dan Schiffman. Also, over here we have our model. Oh, sorry, let me write it. That's a view. And over here we have our models. And our models are like the brains of our application, where the logic is going to go. Here, I'm going to draw the worst brain of all time, but it's going to be a brain. Just please bear with me. I don't know if this looks like a brain or if in any way you think that's a brain, but let's just say the brains of our application. This is where all like the thinking and logic is going to go. The way I like to envision this system is sort of like a restaurant. So in a restaurant, you, the user, are first provided with a menu, right? View 1 is you get a menu. And from that menu, you're given a bunch of options. And so the user is able to select or provide input as to what they would like from the restaurant. The waiter, or the controller, in this case, waiter here, waiter, menu, and the user requests something to the waiter, which is the controller, and the controller does all the directing. So the input from the user goes into the controller part of our app, and the controller goes into the back, into the kitchen, and talks to the chefs. And the controller says to the chefs, hey chefs, this person wants a bacon cheeseburger, really love their cholesterol, right? Goes to the chef, and the chef says, all right, let me whip it up. I know what to do. I have all the logic. I have all the skills here. Let me put it together, and I will provide you with the results. So the flow, and I'm just generating here the flow of data within an application. Data flows from the views, or what the user can see, into the controller, and the controller determines where that data should go. The controller gives the data to the model, and the model does all the cooking over here. There's all kinds of cool stuff that's going on over there. Woo! Whipping up a delicious batch of, let's call them brownies or burger. Let's say it's a burger over here. What's that? Tannies, that's right. Oh, you already know the deal. And so it whips up this delicious, I'm gonna make like a little pot here, and we're gonna put a spoon in there, right? Does all the whipping up. I actually have no idea what that looks like. You know, that's like a mortar and pestle. Cool? That's what we're gonna say it is for now. We're gonna whip it up, and we're gonna give it back to the waiter, and the controller's like, oh, sweet, this is a great result. Here's the result. And then the waiter goes back to the table, and it knows exactly who should get what. So then the controller then creates or decides how the data should flow into a new view, which is the actual dish itself. And this is the result. So we go from menu to waiter to chef, back to waiter, back to the table with the dish. And what this does, this separation of concerns, makes it so that the restaurant flows really easily. You wouldn't want to walk into a restaurant, head back to the chef and be like, hey, give me a burger. The chef would be like, hold on. I need to organize all my stuff. It gets much more confusing when one person is trying to do a bunch of different things. So this idea of separation of concerns, having different parts of your app only concerned with specific functionality, makes building applications, in particular complicated applications, much, much more simplified. And so this MVC architecture here is what we're going to use to build out this app. Now, in the last iteration, we already took a look at views and the controller, the application controller. But in this case, we're also going to extract some logic out of the controller and put it into the model to make our lives a little bit easier. And so that is a nice little metaphor I like to start this off with, just to get a good idea of what it is we're going to be doing before I actually dive into the application controller, the model, and the views that we have in our app directory. Now, before I go any further, I want to answer some questions just about what this is. If you're confused about the metaphor, we're not actually going to be building a waiter or a chef or a menu, but the metaphor does extend pretty well to how our application is set up. So I'm going to pause this video here, and if you have any questions, just let me know.